Hey, I'm Rachel with Restorations by Rachel, and this is a very atypical piece for me. I had a friend who knows I refinish furniture and was like, hey, I'm getting rid of a storage unit. I'm emptying out what's in there. I have this old TV cabinet I bought like when I was single, and I just don't need it anymore. Would you like it? And oh, by the way, it's by Restoration Hardware. So if you know that brand at all, you know that those items can like lend a hefty price tags. It used to be an old TV cabinet, and that is not the direction I'm going to go with it. So maybe you also have a piece of furniture in your house that's like, oh, this is kind of a dated use of it. What could I do with it? And so I am hopefully going to show you just some little changes that I can make to this. To one, update it, make it a little bit more modern looking, and then two, change its function and use. So I'm excited to get going on this, and excited to have you follow along. So first step is just giving it a good clean. This is going to help my paint adhere the best. I'm not planning on priming it since it already has this paint on there, and I'm going to go with black again. I'm just going to give it a fresh coat. But in order for it to stick well, I want it to be clean. So I'm just using a degreaser. It's simple green. It's not obviously by 7th generation. I just like to reuse this bottle. It's a inexpensive solution, great degreaser, and good cleaner for when you want to repaint something. I always just give it a good liberal spray and then wipe it down with a paper towel. Next up is attaching that crown molding. Since I didn't have a pair of second hands that I truly needed, I decided to use painter's tape to help hold it up. That did not work the first time. It fell down, and so I came in with more reinforcements, and that worked better the second time, and I was able to brad nail it in. Now when this front piece fell, this chipped off, so I'll have to glue that on there, but it'll just be some wood glue, and I can attach it with painter's tape. Now I'm just caulking the seams. I like this caulk because it is paintable within, I think, 20 minutes, which is rather quick, and so it's really nice and convenient. I just put it on there in a nice little bead, and then I run my finger over that to help smooth it out. I like to have a wet paper towel nearby to like clean off my finger as I go, and also if my finger is wet, it helps it glide more smoothly over the caulk that I'm trying to smooth out. And then last step before sanding is to remove all that hardware, and I like to put a screw in its place so I can open and close the door as I need to. All right, I am finally going to start sanding, and I say finally because this day has not turned out as planned, but it's been good because I actually made 2 sales within an hour. I have not sold anything in a month, so needless to say, I was getting kind of frustrated even before that. It had been slow, and yeah, just was trying to be patient, but sometimes it's hard, you know, when you've worked really hard on some things and you're like, why aren't they moving? Second guessing yourself on the pricing, all those things. So I'll put them up on the screen. I sold the Art Deco bar cabinet that I did a couple of months ago, and then the other one was the Drexel sideboard. So the first one was local, the bar cabinet, and then the second one it sold to a lady a few months ago, or a few hours from here in Houston. She reached out to me on my Facebook listing, and I told her, or I listed on the Facebook listing that I can offer shipping, and she got it because her dining set that she already had was the same line, and the dining set she had was originally from her grandmother, and when she first inherited the dining set, her grandmother had this sideboard, but they couldn't take it. They didn't have room for at the time, and so she's wanting to get this to complete the set. So it's really sweet that she's able to do that, and I was just really excited. I'm overjoyed. But I have about 30 minutes before I need to go pick up my kids from school, and I'm going to get sanding. With all the kind of distressing details in this, I'm going to use this sponge attachment, a little interface pad, so it'll kind of get into those areas a little bit better. Here with the trim, I'll probably hand sand that just because this is going to be a little too aggressive and could take off some of that, although it's not uniform all around. But see how much I can get done. This thing's a bit of a beast, so I don't think I'm going to get it done within 30 minutes, so I'll see what I can do. I didn't get anywhere near close to being finished in 30 minutes. I tried to be pretty efficient, but There's just a lot of surface area on this cabinet. You have the outside of the doors, the inside of the doors, and the inside of the cabinet, outside of the cabinet. It's a lot. And so I was really realizing that as I sanded. As you can see, I only got the outside and inside of the doors done and then started on this back part of the cavity. So it's going to be taking me a while to finish the rest of this up, but it's going pretty smoothly so far. I'm going to go get my kiddos. Finally, all of the main flat areas are sanded, so now I'm going to come in and get these curved areas with this trim, crown molding, etc. For most of that, I'm going to use my Surf Prep sander. I've got these more squishy pads that I'm going to use. I'm using the fine, which says 180 to 220. It's definitely more towards the higher grit of the 220. And so that's going to do a nice job of conforming in these little areas. Some of these are like the crevices are pretty deep, and I'll still probably go back in and hand scuff sand a little bit of those areas, so I make sure that the paint sticks to it well when I put it on there. One issue I found as I was sanding is that both of the doors were rubbing it up against the bottom of the inside of the cabinet when they were being closed. So I took my sander and sanded away at the bottom. It took actually quite a bit of time to get it all smoothed out, but that way it would have plenty of clearance, especially after I was finished painting, so it would close without scraping. All that sanding caused a lot of dust residue on the surface of the cabinet, so I am going over it with my vacuum to try to do an initial pass, and then I will wipe over it with a dust-free cloth to get the rest of it before starting to paint. So I'm staying with the same color of black for this piece. I waffled between that and a dark green, but I really like the black on it, and I had this gallon of paint on hand and just thought it would be a good use of it. I've actually had it in my laundry room for a while, and it took a good while to get it mixed up because there were lots of solids at the bottom, and I don't know if this ended up causing me issues later because I have not had any problems with this paint before, and boy did I have problems this time around. As you can see, I've been doing a lot of test sprays. I started out with the product flow being very low, and then I can increase that as I want and then get to where I think it's giving me a good spray. Once I was happy, I went ahead and, applied a good coat over everything, and I thought I was in good shape. It wasn't night, so it's dark, but you'll see here the next morning, I did not find a good thing. All right, it's the next morning. Lighting's much better now. Coming out here to check it, but you can see it went on really textured. When I did open the paint, I'd had this gallon for a long time. It was kind of settled and thick at the bottom. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with this, but I'm going to sand this down to smooth it out. And then I will, of course, paint again. I'm going to make sure that the paint is really good and stirred like I thought it was. Maybe adjust my settings a little bit and hopefully have a better result this time. I decided to use a foam abrasive for all of my sanding on this round because I didn't want to just completely take off all the paint I'd put on there. I was trying my best to smooth it out with also leaving a good layer of paint on there. That did mean it took me a bit longer, but I thought it was worth it, especially because I was already going through a lot more paint than I had originally anticipated. So I was hoping to not buy more paint if I didn't have to. I switched between using my Surf Prep sander and also my orbital sander with the foam attachment. That was so much more sanding than I had anticipated doing. It was probably at least a couple hours to sand everything, wipe it down, vacuum it, all the jazz. So I have paint back in my paint sprayer. I have watered it down more, and I'm going to focus really heavily on what the test spray looks like as I do that before then putting it on here, and hopefully it will go on a lot smoother this time. It better. I did lots and lots of test sprays on this round. I did not want to chance any other problems like I had on the first coat. And like I said, I was out of paint. I was not going to buy more from the launch because I would have had to wait for it to ship and all that. I would have just gone to Sherwin-Williams, but that's another at least $85. and I was trying to avoid that. So as I sprayed, I was also trying to make sure I put on a good thick layer, but then also where it wasn't going to run on me either, because I think part of my problem was it was drying too fast on me and didn't have quite enough time to level out like it should. But I don't know. Like I said, I've always had great success with this paint. I felt like it was spraying on there like I've seen it before, but it just didn't go on that well that first time. And even the second time, I wasn't 100% happy with the finish. But at that point, I just decided that I would probably just lower the price and not deal with the hours of sanding, going to pay for more paint. It just wasn't worth the time and effort, in my opinion, when I could sell it for a little bit less and move on. So here's what I'm looking at on the underside of the base, where I want to add some feet to just give it a little bit more interest, a little more character. I had ordered some, but I found these in my closet. I thought I had some on hand, but couldn't find them when I was initially ordering. So, but they'll work, and it's really nice to save the money, of course, since I already have it on hand. You can see I'm still having a little bit of issues with the paint, just not going on quite as evenly. It just dried really fast. I know the humidity was really low and it was like upper 70s in the garage, so I think those factors contributed to it. So there's some areas that I'm going to fix. It wasn't all of it, but I'm still not happy with it. So I'm going to work on this placement in the meanwhile, and I'll fix the paint too. First, I needed to remove these old plastic little sliders, and I just put a paint scraper, wedged it under there, and hammered it down. They popped off really easily. Well, I realized I got ahead of myself with putting the brackets on and everything, because this plate attaches to the bottom here. I'll screw it in, and then I'll attach this to the base. And so I'm going to stain these, and so I want to go ahead and have these stained, and really stained. I mean, putting top coat on it will be quite easy while it's still on here. So I'm going to go ahead and stain these before drilling and all that. All right, let's see how this goes. I have my stain. I'm using a water-based stain. It's their semi-transparent stain in the color Special Walnut. I have a foam brush here. You could use a chip brush, cloth, whatever, but this is, I think, going to be a nice, easy way to apply it. I'm not using a conditioner. Hopefully I don't live to regret this. But I'm going to kind of it on there and wipe it back. Within 2 minutes is what the directions say. You don't want to give it time to dry. What you're going for there. Let's see. All right. And then you want to wipe back in the direction of the grain. Just have these disposable paper towels. Probably will have to go a little sideways here in these gaps first, or not really gaps, but cracks. There we go. I'm going to do one last wipe in the direction of the grain to try to get any of this excess off. Looking a little blotchy in a couple of these spots, but not too worried about it. I'm kind of considering coming in with this chestnut colored wax that I have. Look really pretty to seal it. So we'll see. I think that's gonna be pretty. And then I'm gonna do these other three. Let it dry. For this round of painting, I've got my spray gun ready to go. Now I'm going to do the tops of the shelves, both of these, and then I'm going to touch up in the areas that I didn't like where it looked. It was the bottom here. I think there was a lot, like as I sprayed around here, like the fine little mist would fall and hit the ground. It just made it really textured. So I sanded that down, and then I'm going to get a couple of these spots where there was some flashing. I've sanded that, and then touch up the entire base as well. All right, guys. I am basically running out of paint. I have this that was what was left in my paint canister, and I have a little bit more in the gallon paint bucket that I bought. So I know I'm gonna have to do 2 coats on here at least, and I'm just gonna switch to a roller because I know that's gonna use a lot less product. Should go on just fine, and yeah, I'm hoping I don't have to go buy more paint, so we'll see. I'm getting it on here really well, and then I kind of like to just go lightly over the areas that I've painted to help get those bubbles and texture out so it dries a little bit smoother. I'll work in small sections as I go. That way, as I go back over it with my roller, the paint hasn't dried any, because then it would leave the texture and kind of be defeating the purpose of what I'm trying to do. All right, so as you can see, these didn't like absorb stain very easily or very uniformly on this one for sure, this one as well, but that one looks pretty rough. But I'm coming in with this wax. It's chestnut brown. It's by Milk Paint. It's my first time to use it. I've seen Flip by Abby use it on a couple pieces. She used this one and then the black. I have the black as well that I'm planning on using at some point, but I've already done one. You can see it looks really pretty. Be interested to see what it looks like once it's completely dry. But it's like a sealing wax, and it's dry within 24 hours, I guess. Yeah, so you do have a little bit of wait time, but I like that I think it's no VOC. Yeah, non-VOC, so that's really nice and safe. And then this was part of like a 2-pack of wax brushes that I got. Pretty inexpensive. So I'm like gonna have this one for brown and then another one for black. You can see it goes on pretty easily, and a little is going a long way. So just get this all in there and I'll show you what it looks like afterward. And there it is all finished. Isn't it gorgeous? I can't believe how much better those looked after how blotchy that stain was. All right, so it has dried. It's late, so the lighting's not the best, but you know, you can see there's some variations, not quite even in how it looks, but as a whole, it went down pretty smooth, it dried smoothly. I do need to get into this crack here. I'll do that with a brush and then kind of smooth it out with the roller, and hopefully after the second coat, we should be good to go. I did do a light sanding before moving on to doing the second coat. That way it was good and smooth, ready for that second coat of paint. So the legs are good and dry, so I'm going to start putting this all together. I've cut these 2x2s, which is really a 1.5 by 1.5, so I can have pieces of wood here for these plates to attach to. So I'm going to do something, probably something like that. And I don't know, I might have to put one piece here. We'll see. But what I'm going to do is attach with wood glue and some 2-inch brad nails. So hopefully that will make them good and sturdy and locked in there and be a good base for screwing these guys in. So attaching the hardware to the legs is quite simple. It thankfully has kind of this point in the center, and then for the template I just like to put it on there and then take a pencil to circle these spots where I'm going to pre-drill my holes. Make sure I keep it. It'll be easier down on the ground. And you'll want to make sure when you attach, you'll see here that the metal kind of has this angled inset. That's where the screw is going to rest. Hear my daughter laughing. She's mimicking everything I'm doing. So that's how it's going to screw into this guy. And then this part of the plate will then go into your base, and you see it has those same angled lines for the screws when it goes into the base. So I'll show you, and I hope it'll make more sense if you don't understand it at this point.
But I come see, he actually has 12 subjects.
Attaching the plate is really straightforward after you've drilled your holes. You can see I had to hand put this in. I left my screw driving bits in my husband's truck and he was gone. And then once you have it on there, you put it up where you want to place it, draw your circles, pre-drill your holes, and then attach it. With the shape of the leg, it would have actually been really hard to use my drill here. So I had to use some elbow grease and help with my daughter and different screwdrivers to get it attached. But the first one was harder, and then my subsequent ones, I was a lot faster. Next up is the inside of these drawers. There's a lot of residue of something in here. I'm not sure what it was. So I'm taking my sander with 220 grit to try to get rid of it. I'm not too worried about it being quite perfect because I am going to line the bottom of these drawers, but I want to get a majority of it out.
I forgot to film it, but I'm just using the roller here on the sides of these drawer fronts. You can see just one coat did really well, but I'm going to go over with the second one. So you can see this is the liner I picked out. I did have to match it up here. So there's a slight seam, but it lines up pretty well. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the hardware. Pick this antique brass look. I feel like it pairs well with the liner. And then also the original hinges that are on the door. All right, saga continues with this thing, with paint, but I have not had trouble with melange's paint before, but as you can see, like, I mean, it's even kind of showing up, like where I rolled, where there was some flashing, and then the rolling didn't look good. It just looked different sprayed versus rolled on. So then I just went ahead and sprayed that section, but you can see, like, the line there. Oh, my hand's a little dirty, but so now I'm basically out of paint, and so what I'm going to do is I've mixed it with top coat, and I'm planning to just spray the inside here, and hopefully that should look, you know, pretty uniform compared to this. We'll see what it looks like when it dries. If not, I can do the inside part of this door as well, because I have made enough of a mixture that I should have plenty, but I'm hoping this fixes it because I'm over it. I'm honestly over it. So I'm ready for this to be done. This is my last step. Since there's a little bit of bumps here, I'm just using a 400 grit to sand it out pretty smooth and wipe it back. Get all this dust out of here too.
Thankfully, this method worked like a charm. So it went on really well. You can see it creates a lot of just fine overspray all in that cavity because the overspray doesn't really have anywhere to go. So you want to make sure you're for sure wearing your respirator there, because I could even kind of smell it through my respirator. But I was just so pleased that it ended up drying well, exactly how I wanted to. And here you can see how it looked after I was finished. Has a good coat on there everywhere, but nothing's drippy or messy. Okay guys, I cannot believe I'm finally finished with this beast of a piece of furniture. So let's take a look back at how we started. It definitely had a rustic feel, great bones to it, but plenty of chips and dirty from over the years, but still could really function as something useful, whether it be like an armoire or coffee bar. But here it is, all spruced up now. As you can see, it's not like a huge difference, but I think those small changes of the furniture feet and the hardware and just giving it a new paint job really make a big difference. I'm going to let you enjoy these videos with the birds chirping in the background, and then I'll come back with some more thoughts. As you can see, I staged it more as like a standalone linen storage, but I think it has such great potential since it already has that hole in the back. It could be a coffee bar or as an armoire or a standalone pantry. Really, I feel like the sky's the limit with this. I hope this video encourages you to look at those old pieces of furniture and give new life to them with just some little tweaks. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know your thoughts on this project in the comments, and I look forward to catching you on the next one.